Hi guys, and welcome to another video. In this video I'll be drawing a dog's eye in graphite. I've recently been working on a lot of pet portrait commissions using graphite, so I thought I'd show you how I create my graphite drawings and explain which materials that I use and why. In my graphite drawings I usually only use a few grades of pencil, usually a HB pencil, a 4B pencil, and then a 6 or a 7B pencil. I also like to use a black polychromos pencil to darken up the darkest areas, because I feel like with graphite alone I can't get the really dark areas dark enough, as graphite can look really shiny when a lot of graphite's placed in one area, and I don't really like that look very much. Similarly to my coloured pencil drawings, I always start off by outlining the eye, marking out the darkest areas first, such as the area around the eye and the pupil area. It's always very important to use a sharp pencil for this part, otherwise your pencil lines won't look as crisp, and the dark areas might start to merge into the lighter or mid-toned areas. In the reference photo that I used, the eye was the darkest around the edges and in the middle where the pupil is. Then between those two darker areas is a mid-toned area, which blends softly into the darker areas. I tend to use a blending stump most of the time to blend out graphite pencils, as I found this is the easiest way and gives me the smoothest result. You can get these really cheap on eBay or Amazon or anything, they're just really cheap. Even though graphite is quite easy to rub out if you make a mistake, I still like to keep the highlights white at first, because if you put too much graphite onto the lightest areas, it can be quite hard to remove them. A kneaded eraser is my favourite for graphite, as you can dab it onto the areas to lighten them up slightly if you accidentally make them a little bit too dark. They're good because you can shape them, so if you have a tiny area you want to erase, you can shape the eraser into like a small thin shape, which helps to avoid getting rid of more graphite than you intended to. Another good eraser for graphite is the Tombow Mono eraser. This is a thin rubber which is kind of like a mechanical pencil, except it's a rubber so you can buy refills to put in it once it runs out. I like to use this to brighten up any highlights or even to create some lighter hairs in my animal drawings. If I've got some stubborn graphite on the paper which I can't get rid of, the Derwent electric rubber is my friend. It removes most of the graphite even when I've pressed really hard with the pencil. It doesn't erase everything always, but it works a lot better than any other rubber that I've tried. So why do I choose to use a HB, a 4B and a 7B pencil in my drawings? The H indicates a hard pencil, so I use this pencil for any light outlines, lighter areas and my initial sketch. I use the HB pencil to indicate lighter hairs in my animal drawings, as the 4B and the 7B are much too dark for adding finer, lighter hairs. I use a 4B because it's quite dark and it's good for smudging out as well, but it isn't super dark. The 7B is a lot darker, so I use this for really dark areas. The B grade on pencils indicate how black the pencil is, and the blacker the pencil, the softer it is as well. So the darker the pencil, the easier it smudges out as well, so it can become really easy to blend out using the blending stumps to get a nice smooth result. As I said earlier, I then like to use the black polychromos coloured pencil for the very dark areas. This is because graphite can create that shine that I said about, and coloured pencils generally don't have much shine, so I find that it looks a lot better in my opinion. You could probably use any brand of coloured pencil, I just chose to use this one as they're my favourite type of coloured pencils. After completing the actual eye itself, I then like to start mapping out the fur around the eye. The fur direction is constantly changing around the eye area in dogs, and this is the same for most other animals as well. It's important to pay close attention to all the changes in fur direction in your reference photo, as this can make the animal look more realistic. I like to first approach the fur by adding in the darkest areas first, so in this case, around the bottom of the eye and around the inner corner of the eye were the darkest areas, so I added those in first. I'd usually use a 4B pencil for this, as it isn't too dark if I do make a mistake, but it's darker than a HB, so it shows up more and it's easy for me to see where the dark areas are once they've been added in. I used to always draw in graphite when I was younger, and at school we always had to use graphite for drawings such as still life and things like that. I did GCSE and A-level art, and graphite was always what we started off using at the beginning of a new project. This is probably because it gave us a chance to see the values properly within the subject that we were drawing instead of focusing on the colour first. Values are much more important because they are what makes the object or animal more realistic. You could draw a cow entirely in shades of blue and it would still look realistic if you get the values right. For the past couple of years, I had been drawing mostly using colour, but going back to using graphite every now and again really brings things back to basics and helps me to recognise the values a lot more easily. I've been working on a lot of commissions recently, and a lot of them have been in graphite, which I find actually looks really effective. Graphite's also really great if you want to sell your work or work on commissions because it's very light fast. How light fast a material is basically means how resistant to fading and discolouring it is, and graphite happens to be one of the most light fast materials out there. So I always know that my commissions will last a very long time. I always make sure my coloured work is light fast as well, but it can be a bit more confusing when it comes to picking out which colours are light fast and which ones aren't. For the lighter areas of fur, I like to use the HB pencil to create some light shading and some fine hairs. Then I use the blending stump to blend out some of the graphite to create a sort of base layer. I then add some darker hairs on top, here and there, to add some depth. If the area of the fur is particularly light, then I won't add any darker hairs on top, but it just depends. In some of the fur underneath the eye, I'm using the Tombow Mono eraser that I mentioned earlier to create some lighter hairs. This is such a great technique that I use all of the time. It's a lot quicker than leaving the lighter hairs blank and then working around them, as that could take absolutely ages and would get very tedious. I then just add a few darker hairs on top to create depth, because then there's a base mid-tone of the blended out graphite, then some lighter hairs using the Tombow Mono eraser, and then some darker hairs on top. I just keep adding more and more layers until I get the darks dark enough. Once I've added enough graphite onto the darkest areas, I then use the black polychromos pencil to add some even darker hairs on top to further darken those areas up. If you would find it helpful for me to create some videos similar to this but a little bit slower, with some clips in real time, please let me know and I can make some videos more like that. I know when I first started to draw animals, I found it really useful to see some real-time videos, so please let me know if you would like to see some videos like that. I'm going to be uploading a video onto my YouTube every other Monday, so please subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss out. After Christmas, I will try to upload every single week, but until then I have so many commissions to work on that I probably wouldn't have enough time to do that just yet. After Christmas, I'll be focusing more on my YouTube channel, as I would really love to help you guys learn how to draw realistically and give you some more tips. Art is a huge passion of mine, and I want to reach a larger audience and hopefully help motivate you to keep creating and improve your artwork. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye guys!